Tennessee has just nuked the NCAA. The NCAA came for Tennessee. They thought it was going to be a violation that they could make an example of, and Tennessee said, "No deal. We're not taking this. We're taking you down with us. No, not even with us. We're just taking you down. We're just going to light you on fire because you even dared to cross us." Which it used to be the other way around, right, Dave? It used to be if you dare to cross the NCAA, they'll light you on fire. And Tennessee said, "We're going to light the NCAA on fire."
Yeah, and
And
that's and just to throw this in there real quick because we didn't get to mention it. What you win by this injunction is there's not an ongoing NCAA investigation that you would have to keep tabs on and worry about. So that's the biggest thing. And you can pay players like crazy right now. So those are the two biggest things. But your talk was, I think the NCAA is still going to run the basketball tournament.
not just the basketball tournament.
Yeah, go.
They are going to, they run every single tournament outside of football. Basketball is profitable. I do believe now, you guys can correct me, even though I think women's basketball loses money as a sport, I think the tournament is profitable. I think the tournament itself is profitable. I could be wrong on that. You guys can correct me on that. But
I would think with TV money it is.
I would too. And also because the first weekend is on campus. So I think that helps too. So I would think women's basketball is profitable in the tournament. The college football playoff selection committee, guys, is run by a lot of people that may not directly work for the NCAA, but it's not like they aren't like interested in the health and well-being of the NCAA. Is that fair to say? It's not like they don't have an incentive for the NCAA to be in charge.
No, but see, here's what I think. You're right. But what if some of these football people that no longer have jobs in the NCAA get shifted over to basketball? And then usually with the way it works in the SEC, basketball is a little bit lower of a level. So they would get bumped out the door, and then you have your football guys handling the basketball tournament. I could see that happening. And then you've got the same decision makers that just got embarrassed in court deciding whether or not your team makes the NCAA basketball tournament. That would be kind of brutal.
Oh, that's the biggest brutal one. I agree. That's the most direct one is the NCAA basketball tournament. They're going to try to underseed Tennessee. I only brought it up with football because I still think the selection, I think people will only care the most about football. And I still think the selection committee is going to exist, and whatever's happening, there's going to be people affiliated with the selection committee that cared about the health of the NCAA and don't like the fact that Tennessee just did what they did. And there's people who vote, Dave, let's talk about this. Remember those headlines when this, remember those headlines that came out when Tennessee first won this case? Or when this investigation started, and so many media outlets were like, the hammer's coming down on Tennessee. It's over for Tennessee. Remember all of those?
Yeah. And listen, I don't pick out particular reporters, but I think you know who I'm talking about. We're about to start working with Ray Varner Ford, which we're really excited about. And the name sounds like Ford, but I don't want to name him. At what point does it really, really, thank you, Smoky Mountain Red? It's just my mantra. I don't rip other media members. But what does it make him look like? Because it does now seem, and I never say this, it seems motivated by his own anger at the fan base for some of the reporting that he did early on. I hate to say that because Caleb is so objective. I consider myself to be very objective. That's exactly what you're not supposed to be. So it's kind of like calling somebody's wife a hooker, like my wife. But Caleb, does it hurt this gentleman that we're talking about?
Yes. And guess what? There was a lot of people like him. Dave, don't those people vote on the Heisman?
Oh, yeah.
Don't they vote?
Yes.
You think Tennessee had an agenda against it? There was an agenda against Tennessee players before this when it comes to the Heisman? Tennessee may never get a Heisman winner.
I will say this, and a lot of the people in the message board probably aren't going to like it, but when it comes to national media and their thoughts on Tennessee fan base, you can take this as a compliment or as a criticism. They think you're absolutely one of the most fervent, excitable fan bases out there. And I would take that as a compliment personally if I were out there on Twitter attacking other writers like me. But when you look at Tennessee's fan base, it carries a lot of clout. it carries a lot of clout. I think it helped Tennessee in court. I think it helps Tennessee with other national media members. I don't think a national media member is going to go overboard in terms of keeping them out of whatever the case may be, the basketball tournament or something like that. I don't think that'll happen, but I would certainly be concerned.
I still think it could. I think national media, look, they vote emotionally all the time. Dave, you were there in the 90s. You've told me ESPN people have basically told you they were annoyed at the year-long coronation of Peyton Manning, and that's the only reason they didn't vote him to win the Heisman. It was nothing else. I mean, they didn't like the year-long coronation. And
okay, here's the other thing why it doesn't hurt Tennessee. Who's more powerful? I'm going to give you 2 acronyms: NCAA currently or ESPN. Who's the most powerful entity right now?
Oh, ESPN is much more powerful than the NCAA.
Okay. And Tennessee is aligned with which conference?
Sorry, say that again. You cut out for a second.
Oh, you broke up. Tennessee is aligned with which conference?
Oh, the SEC.
Okay. So I've been saying this all along, just offering that out there, that I believe that Tennessee just maybe perhaps get something out of that television contract besides just money, because you've given that television contract a really hard time. But Caleb, I think there's more to it than that. I think that Tennessee and the SEC will benefit from the ESPN exposure. And when I say there are some national media out there that don't like Tennessee fans, I'm talking about less than a dozen. I don't want to say that's across the board. Caleb, I think the connection with ESPN pays some dividends that might not actually be on the ledger sheet.
Okay. I could see that. Now, here is where this gets a little tricky. This ESPN control of the college football playoff, guys, is not ironclad. The college football playoff is going to dictate what happens with what happens to the college football playoff is going to dictate how college football goes in the future, right?
Yes.
You know that Fox, NBC, and all these other groups want a big piece of the pie. When the SEC and the Big Ten inevitably form their own league, whatever happens, there's not the people in the room are not, even though I don't think they're all that bright, they're not stupid enough to not realize that it's better to leverage yourself to different networks for different playoff games, aren't they?
Correct.
Like the NFL, they're going to figure that out, I think, pretty quickly. I don't know how that's going to work out. By the way, I've heard some reporting over the weekend that the SEC and Big Ten are very concerned that this upcoming college football playoff format, they're very concerned with what it will do to conference championship Saturday, particularly the SEC, more than any other league. Because, Dave, as you know, conference championship Saturday is a moneymaker for the SEC. I mean, they've turned the SEC. Yeah, they are very concerned about the devaluing of conference championship Saturday, and they want to finagle. They want, the reason there's new talks on the negotiating table with the 14 or whatever, they're trying to go back to the drawing board to make sure that people don't devalue conference championship Saturday, because they're very, very worried that's going to happen. And
I think at some point it does happen and the money's made up. And I hate that, because the SEC championship game, I've covered a Super Bowl and I'd rather cover an SEC championship game. So I hate to see that go away, but I will give you that. You're probably right on it. Tennessee.
Well, here's the idea. Sorry, just one quick idea. There is a thought that the conference championship Saturday could end up being a conference playoff like 2 weeks, and that could actually eventually be embedded into as part of the college football playoff.
No, that could happen. I could definitely see that happening. And I don't want to see the SEC championship game go away. Now, Dylan says Tennessee has no problem being the villains. They've been the opposite. They've been very compliant for all of my lifetime with the NCAA. Do you like this new role as Tennessee being the villains?
I mean, the thing is, I don't think they're villains in this. The flaw in that argument, they're villains to the NCAA. Every college is great. Every major program is grateful to Tennessee for being the one to stick its neck out to fight this fight. Yep. And in reality is they just had to be the bad guys. Now, yes, they were compliant with the NCAA. Dave, it's possible. There was always that philosophy that media members hated Tennessee. I didn't know how true that was, but if it's true, do you think it's because there was resentment that Tennessee was so teacher's pet with the NCAA?
Yes. Yes, I think that's a big part of the reason. And the Peyton Manning backlash when Tennessee fans were so mad about that was strong as well. I feel like I'm forgetting one. You'll probably remember it. ESPN will back schools 1,000% since that is their money train. I completely agree with that. I think the ESPN marriage is much better than Caleb does. We'll leave it at that. I think it's going to end up working out well for them.